All right, we're going to get started in just a minute with outdoor technology extending the living space, which is a continuing education unit credit course that we will cover. We're just giving people a couple more minutes before we start. Great. Looks like we have 8 people, so that's great. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. It seems like most people are joining. Welcome to Outdoor Technology Extending the Living Space. This is a CEDIA professional development program. A little bit about me. I'm Jen Mallett. I'm the founder of Level Up Automation. We're an integration company. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, and I own Level Up Automation, which is a franchise system where we have 9 locations in the US. And our vision as a company is to be the best and most knowledgeable technology automation company in the world. Our mission is to help all of you be trusted advisors to both consumers and business partners like interior designers, architects, and builders. As all of this technology and the smart home and intelligent building market continues to change. It feels like every 3 months or so, something's different with the pace of technology. And essentially what integration companies like ours do is we design around lighting, smart energy, entertainment, security, a number of other things. And really we take these systems within the residential space and we provide typically a single place of control so that people can really maximize the enjoyment of their home. And I'm really excited to chat with you today about outdoor design. It is exploding. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Just a little about CEDIA. CEDIA is a nonprofit global organization of companies like ours that are integrators. We have 3,700 members across the globe. And we're really your technology advisors in a way that when you're not sure, you have a client or you personally want to do some things, and you're not sure what brand, what technology to use, we're great trusted resources for you. This is what we do. We are essentially the technology trade in the residential space. So if you can think of a plumber, an electrician, HVAC, we're your technology arm that works across all of the systems so that we can bring the technology aspect in. And this is, we've partnered with the IDCEC. So this is a CEU accredited course for those of you that are in the design build trade. We'll reach out to you after the call to make sure you get your credits that you have. So we're gonna go through a few topics today around learning objectives for outdoor technology. The first is really just to understand what can you do? A lot of people aren't aware of what they can do. And being able to understand what's possible is really that first place. Secondly, we'll help share with you really understanding what are the important things that you need to think about when you're looking at an outdoor project in terms of evaluating the site, some roadblocks that you might run into so that you can start to really think about your outdoor space as a place where you can create an experience in a way that's very simple. We're going to identify environmental conditions that influence outdoor technologies. There are a few that are different than internal technologies. We're going to review the infrastructure and equipment and examine control options with some real world applications. This is meant to be interactive. We won't go through and do introductions because we don't have that much time, but if you do have a question, do raise your hand and we're happy to facilitate an answer. So don't feel like if you have a question, you can't ask it because you absolutely can. So what can you really do outside? Well, I think that when you look at your outside space as almost like a blank canvas, right? What you can do is you can create an experience that not only is just audio, which was really the first time technology started to get outdoors. People wanted to take their streaming music while they were entertaining and just have it outdoors. So it started there and really over the years became really about creating experiences. So a good example, and one of the reasons why I like this picture, because first of all, it looks like an amazing backyard and many of you probably would love to sit in it. When you look at something like this is beautiful, right? Like you can put in fantastic light fixtures that are outside. Now, putting the fixtures in is one step, right? And understanding the layers of light in the backyard and what you want to focus on in terms of color, temperature, and placement, what you want to highlight architecturally or within your landscape. Those are things to think about, right? And that's something that typically is done. The next step is typically not done, which is how do people control it? And how do they control it in a way that is modular? So it might be that one day you're entertaining in this backyard and you want to have this sort of look. There might be another time where you're having a different type of experience in there. Maybe you're working at night or something else out here in the backyard and you want a different vibe and scene. So the lighting might change, the sound might change. Perhaps this television that's in here may change. And, being able to simply control all those things is a good example. And how you get there and the infrastructure and planning design is some of what we're going to talk about today. So what are outdoor solutions? Some of these probably aren't surprising and some of them maybe. Lighting, we just talked about lighting. That's a big exploding category is outdoor lighting. So if you look at different zones of light within your front and backyard, the ability to be able to control those lights is now a feature that is readily available so that you're not just switching on the whole outdoors, you're actually switching on zones of lighting and creating an experience, coves perhaps, for example. So automated lighting controls that incorporate color, temperature, dimming capabilities and zones. Water features. We can now control water features like fountains. And you can think of that in the context of an outdoor design and you have water features in it, being able to have a scene that's established that like maybe it's a chill scene, for example, where the lighting goes to a certain temperature and your water features go on or your fire features go on. We can do that too. So all of that is kind of part of the planning process and possible as long as we plan it ahead of time. Audio distribution we talked about, that is big. That's a big leader. I would say lighting and audio are probably the two places where there's the most established market for outdoor solutions. But these other items that are around it, which may be more niche, are really quickly growing because people really have gained an appetite for being able to control things in ideally one app to be able to get the experience they want really quickly. Underlying everything here is Wi-Fi. So as we look at network design and being able to actually control, the number one thing is how strong is your connectivity. And in order to get to a place where you have great connectivity and you can actually be able to control these things, you need to have great Wi-Fi. And so certainly as part of inside residential design, having access points and things is a very common thing, but a lot of people don't know that you also can extend your Wi-Fi outside through proper planning and really be very targeted about where that Wi-Fi signal goes. So this has been, I think in the last 2 years, a very popular add-on for people to have outdoor Wi-Fi. And there's a few ways we can accomplish that, which I'll go through, but they're outdoor rated access points. Video and live streaming, so being able to catch that game outside on your outdoor TV, absolutely possible. Streaming has been a fantastic way for people to really get to their content easily. In order to have that, you've got to have great Wi-Fi. So some of what we'll talk about with live streaming and content is making sure as part of that low voltage plan for that space, making sure that the televisions that are out there are hardwired possibly, as opposed to utilizing Wi-Fi for streaming where you may have buffering and things like that. Pool and spa controls, those are fun. You can change the color of pools. You can manage some of the energy management of spas and things like that. Motorized pergola. CCTV is like security, essentially. Being able to have the ability to be able to monitor your backyard, typically very popular, especially in places where there are pools and people want to be able to keep eyes on that. Irrigation control, for sure. And lastly, access control. So that would be if you have a property where you have gates, being able to make sure that you can take the technology that we have with access control and be able to lock, unlock, have codes, things like that to this outdoor space that's being designed. So as long as these items are planned out ahead of time, working with landscape designers, interior designers, clients, and being able to have a big picture vision of how people want to live in this space, we can create essentially outdoor solutions. But it does require a lot of design planning. So we'll talk a little bit here about audio. Does anyone have any questions so far before I move on? Okay, we'll keep going. So audio has really moved. You can see here in the top right-hand corner, many people probably have seen the infamous rock speakers. And there's a million different rock speakers out on the market of different colors, shapes, and sizes. Some of them sound amazing. Some of them don't sound amazing. But by and large, they really have come a long way. So that's a traditional type of outdoor landscape product that you can put in. But it's really just the tip of the iceberg for what can happen with audio design on the outside area. So within audio, you can also design around zones, right? So for example, here in the bottom right-hand portion of the corner, you've got a zone where there's a television and an outdoor rated sound bar. So a couple notes. One is that outdoor televisions are not engineered the same as inside televisions. And therefore, they're a lot more expensive. Sometimes you might have people look at the price of an outdoor television and just think, well, I'll go to my local big box discount store and just get a new television every 2 or 3 years and save myself some money. That's not everybody, but some people kind of look at the price and they don't quite understand the level of engineering that happens within the outdoor television. So the big ones really are, so first of all, outdoor televisions are rated for the temperatures, the right temperatures. So that's very important. They're also rated for humidity levels. So the environment that you have outside in terms of humidity, especially if you look at markets like Florida and Louisiana, Texas, versus New England or other parts of the country, very, very different, right? So these are engineered to be able to withstand a very broad swath of humidity levels. There are also differences in being able to view the content. So if you're looking at outdoor televisions or outdoor screens, outdoor televisions in particular have what's called a nit rating, which is essentially how bright they are. And when you go to scope on outdoor television, or if you're chatting with somebody on outdoor television, they're in like a few different categories. There are shade, full shade televisions. There are partial shade, and then there are full sun. And the investment essentially is different because the engineering is different and how the viewability of that product is different based on where it is in the yard. So part of the assessment with audio video is really understanding where in the yard are these things going to be and then matching the right product. That big box discount product is not going to perform as well as this because there are models that are really specific to full sun, partial sun, shade, so that the brightness of the television reflects what it's supposed to. So your options really for outdoor audio, as we look at designs, we have, certainly, like I mentioned, rock speakers. There are outdoor rated sound bars. They are meant to be in the snow, the heat. These really are outdoor rated products. So they are a bit more expensive, but they will last a long time. And they're meant to perform the way they're supposed to perform. In terms of supporting these products, as we get into the design section later, there's things that we need to make sure are in place, like infrastructure that's in place. So a good example, this fireplace, as that's being built out, a mason person who's doing that, needs to make sure that there's a space where there's power, right? So there's things like that that need to be considered because televisions don't run off of batteries, right? Neither do sound systems. Other things about audio, as you look at it, you can have audio that is essentially mounted on the house, right? Landscaped in like the rock speakers, mounted here also in an area where there's television. But that really is just the tip of the iceberg. There are products that are, multifunctional, for example. So it might be that there are different satellite speakers in different zones and they take care of your audio, but they also provide some ambient lighting to the backyard. So instead of running lighting and audio, you're actually, you get 2 for 1, and you're able to have your sound and your lighting in one place. Here's more with audio. So this is a beautiful backyard and a great view of, essentially in this area, I think what's really most impressive is you can't see the technology. The planters and things that are here as part of this landscaping, for example, there are audio products that actually can be hidden and disguised in planters. Same thing with lighting. So there's a lot of different capabilities that are here, and between the mix of mounted, landscape, and then specialty products, there's a lot to be able to design with. So we've moved very far from rock speakers. Let's talk about outdoor lighting. What a great way to paint. Essentially, you're painting with light when you're designing lighting. Side note, we have an integrated lighting design CU course also by CEDIA that it is all about lighting, layers of light, how to design internal and out. So if you're interested in that, we are teaching that, I think, next month. Great course. So when you're looking at outdoor lighting, as I mentioned earlier, and I think what is really well represented around this scene is you have this focal point of the residence, right? And the interior light and the exterior light are both designed to work together to essentially create an experience. So you've got your focal point here. You have the left and right where you have this foliage that you're highlighting. And there's some good ground level lighting you'll see over by the paths that are circling this lawn area. You can see that there's well-lit paths. So when you're looking at designing lighting and the lighting controls that are outside, you really want to think about, first of all, safety. And then second of all, what do you want to highlight and beautify? And how do you want to do it? Do you want to do it with a temperature of light, right? Something that's warmer. There has been a really big push for LEDs in the last 5 to 10 years, and it's both good and bad. If you've ever driven by a house that has really, really bright white lights that are almost blinding at night, then you know that that's great. They've upgraded to LEDs, but it's also a little bit jarring at night. Whereas this particular lighting design really has a kind of a warmer feel to it. And that really is by intention. Did we have a question that popped up? Somebody else joined. So lighting design is a big. So the other thing about this within technology is how do you control this, right? So you might be able to, for example, as you look at different zones within this space, you might decide that you're going to turn down the uplighting of the foliage, but keep the path lights until a certain time at night. Let's say you have a college kid who's coming back from home and he's not going to be back until midnight or 1 a.m. because he's out with his friends. But you don't want to bother your neighbors with a lot of light that's late. You can keep the pathway lights on to a certain hour on a schedule and still be able to have a quietly lit, quiet house in terms of lighting overnight. So you do that by planning and having that control aspect of your lighting designed. In terms of actual controls, there are many, many different ways you can control lighting, as well as these other products that we're talking about. Certainly through mobile phones, voice control, but really ever popular is the switch. And this happens to be a customized switch. This is very European. We're a global organization, so you see a lot of these type of switches that are custom engraved with words. And essentially you can imagine if you're here, right, you're toggling between work pool, you're able to control lighting, but also you're able to control, along with lighting, televisions, blinds, things like that. So as we look at really lighting controls and how to control those fixtures, we're looking at certainly the traditional things that you thought of, but also just reinventing the wall control. And in this case, this is reinvented with a very custom thing for the client. But if you can imagine a simple button that is, for example, on your way outdoors, right, from on your way outdoors to your patio, and you've got 4 scenes there. One is relax, one is fire pit, one is entertain, and one is all off. So nothing beats, as much as we've really gotten very tied to phones and things, nothing beats just like pressing a button. Everybody can press a button, whether it be the person who owns the house or people or guests that are visiting the house. And I think that that's why they still will remain very, very powerful. What I want to convey with you guys is that the traditional switch that's on and off really now is much more condensed, and we can create scenes and multifunctional activity through just pressing a button, whereas before you were just basically turning on and off one load. So it's very exciting time. We talked a little bit about video earlier and the differences between really inside TVs and outside TVs. They're definitely big. I will say that video isn't just televisions, it's also motorized outdoor theater screens, for example, and outdoor rated projectors and enclosures. So there's a lot of different options to kind of look at depending upon, you know, what the client wants with that space. Is it going to be more of a purpose of watching, you know, movies? Is it more a sports centric type of person that's living there, or family that's living there? So what we try to do is really ask all the right questions so that we can provide a recommendation on what sort of product is going to be a great fit, whether it be a television or in some cases motorized screens or static screens. This particular view here is really nice because what they did essentially is they installed an outdoor TV, and you can see that it's completely flush with the tile work that's there. And that absolutely doesn't happen by accident. That is planned out in advance, because as we talk about getting ready for this sort of plan, you should make sure that there's a Cat6 networking cord back there, maybe a device that is going to help with media. You also need power. You need to understand how that television is going to be controlled by the users. So a lot of planning takes place as part of that within making this look really flush and beautiful. Otherwise, it just would be a TV hung on an outdoor wall. Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi, as we mentioned earlier, is really critical both inside and out. It is the foundation of a smart home, period. It is, if you think about foundations, we're all in different parts of the country, stone foundation, concrete, whatever it is, the network is the foundation of the smart home. So without a great plan around Wi-Fi coverage for the home, where we're going to hardwire, where we're going to have what's called access points, which repeats that signal in different parts of the house, it's really critical both, you know, for the inside and the outside to be able to have network mapping, where essentially we're able to take a look at the landscape drawings and the house and understand the Wi-Fi, and then be able to put repeaters and access points in different places so that when the construction's all done, they have rock solid connectivity. Once the construction's all done, it's much harder to run fiber or Cat6 or anything else. So understanding really and planning for strong Wi-Fi to be extended outdoors is critical, because if you don't do that, then maybe you can't stream what programs you want, or maybe they're controlling items through the phone and they're not getting good connectivity to be able to queue up their music or run a scene that they want to be able to run. So we spend a good amount of time up front starting there. Controlling the outdoor environment should be really easy. I think that, you know, one of the great things about smart homes is that we've seen great growth in terms of adopting technology. But it also has created another side, which is people get frustrated when they can't control the thing that they thought they were going to be able to control. So within design for the control system, what we do, a lot of integrators do, is we really focus on multimodal control to make sure that everybody who's living in the space or not living in the space has the ability to be able to control the system, should that be the desire of the client. And if it's not, sometimes we have people where it's just the one person on the phone that control the whole house. That I would say that is a very small use case, because most people don't want to be the CIO of their own house, or the CTO, right? They don't want to be the chief technology officer of their own house. They want people to be able to self-service their entertainment and their experience of their home. So we work on really designing multimodal. So whether it be the switches we talked about earlier, or a centralized app and control system that's able to integrate all of these different brands into one experience, and be able to understand also what are the common use cases people have outside. So for most part, humans are very much behavioral people, where they have a routine, right? So you might entertain in the same way, you might relax in the same way, you might play with the kids in the backyard in the same way. And what's really nice about that is, by understanding what the client's needs are, we can create and program scenes that replicate that for very easy use and control. Access and security. So gate control, door control, the ability to be able to talk to somebody who you might not know, who's outside of your house. Maybe also to, maybe you have a landscape person or a gardener taking care of the back portion of your house, and you want to be able to give them a code, a guest code, for them to get in and out. Maybe also you're concerned with whether or not somebody in the house locked the door before, it was nighttime, and you're worried about somebody walking in and getting in your pool or something like that. So access and security, when planned up front, is really helpful, because you are able to provide that peace of mind for people, where they're able to view who's outside, be able to let people in remotely, be able to provide guest codes, and just know whether or not your property is secure. So with all that said, where do we start, right? We've got all these different systems in place. And this is where partnering with landscape designers and architects and interior designers and the client is really important for integrator companies, because the planning process is really where we can help people future-proof their backyard. Because as I mentioned earlier, once the hardscaping is done and other things, it's just a lot more costly, and your options are limited when you don't plan in advance. So I'm sharing here, this is a design that essentially has a legend on it, which is very normal, because not everybody knows what a subwoofer is or a satellite speaker, right? So we create legends for our designs. And in this case, what I want to highlight is there are several different areas here where we can create experiences. So we have this seating area, which is a great outdoor dining room. And so part of that design process really is understanding, how do they want to entertain outside? What type of entertainers are there? And as part of that, we're really designing experiences. So some of what we're doing here is we're making sure that, okay, the speaker selection in this space is not going to overpower conversation, which is what entertainment's all about, right? It's getting together, being able to have some wine or whatever it is and grill, and still being able to talk with people and have conversation and not be completely overtaken by a loud or hot audio zone that is right in your ear. What you want is nice, smooth, even distribution of your music that sounds really good at a low level, so that you can have conversation. And we also want that system to be able to rock out when the client's home alone and they want to rock out. So we'll design around those two things. So when we look at that space, that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to understand, okay, from an audio distribution point, where do we place the speakers? And so what we do is we mark up the diagrams and we provide a recommendation that this particular area, these are landscape speakers, which means they're in the ground, and where they're placed, so that as the construction happens, we can make sure that the wiring is where it needs to be. Exactly, and it's working with the other trades that are there as well. Same thing with lighting, Wi-Fi. So we would look at, essentially where the house is in this particular case. We'd look at where the Wi-Fi is, and we want to make sure that the parts that we put in this backyard are going to be able to share the signal across this space. And then, of course, we put a network in that is secure and is not going to be hacked or anything like that, as well as a guest network if people want to allow their friends and family to be able to hop onto a guest network. As we move over to this other portion, I just want to call out a couple things. So some of what you see here within audio design is you can see that there's essentially circles and there's cones. And that is really based on the specification of the model we recommend. So in the design process, speakers and lighting, they all have different capabilities. And what we do is essentially we utilize software to make sure that we are providing good coverage. We're creating zones. So in this case, as we look at the seating area versus the area that's paved over here, what you want to do is you want to be able to perhaps play one thing near the garden area and the garden office and another thing close to the dining area. In order to do that, we've got to have two amplifiers. So we have to plan for that. So understanding each of these spaces and making sure that we're able to put in the right audio zones and then also the right lighting zones. Because as I mentioned earlier, in that example with the big house, the ability to be able to control layers of light is very powerful, both from an experience perspective, but also just from an enjoyment perspective in terms of how people are going to feel when they sit in a particular area. And that last part of that is safety. So how safe is this space and at what light is where at what time of day? So those are some things to think about. So part of this is we look at this, we look at, okay, where are we going to put networking cable? Where are we going to lay outdoor rated speaker cable, which is different than internal cable. It's got a different rating to it. We're also looking at Wi-Fi signal, as I mentioned earlier. We're thinking about, okay, are there going to be any outdoor screens here? Are they going to be mounted? Are they going to lift up from an outdoor cabinet and kind of surprise everybody? There's all sorts of different things you can think about. So when we think about those, we're also thinking about where are we going to need traditional power? Where are we going to help the electrician say, okay, on this plan, we're going to need power in these 5 spaces so that we can make sure that we power the electronics we need. Does anyone have any questions on where to start? I'm hoping this is helpful in terms of the planning process. Oh, what to watch out for? Well, there's a lot of things to watch out for. I would say that the number one thing to watch out for is actually the construction process and the planning process. So there needs to be a lot of really strong communication with the builder, the designer, the landscape company, to make sure that the infrastructure that's trenched that I mentioned earlier, whether it be speaker cable, networks, et cetera, lighting, low voltage lighting, that first of all, it's not crossing paths with something else that is necessary. If there are pools and water features and things like that in here, understanding really and talking about how those things are going to be controlled. When you have multiple trades working in one spot, you want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with the plan. Things that happen when you don't do that is you miss an opportunity to put in infrastructure that's needed. Secondarily, you might have infrastructure that is damaged. So for example, or needs to be moved. So for example, if we're running speaker wire to a particular location and somebody needs to come in and put some outdoor conduit that is separate from ours through something and things need to be moved and it might interfere, those are the things that planning should prevent, and things to watch out for, because you want to make sure everybody really is on the same page for the technology and the entertainment design. I did mention conduit. Conduit is, not everybody is ready right away to just jump right into their backyard. We find this with new builds. People will essentially, they might stage it in. They'll start with the main house, and maybe phase 2 is the outside portion of the house. So part of the design work we do is really helping to understand, okay, when phase 2 happens, there's going to be conduit run outside already, so that essentially when it's time to install those speakers, which are the amplification and the power and a lot of the control is inside, there's an easy path to do that in terms of getting to the exterior. So those are type of things that, particularly in new construction, are very helpful. You have a question? I heard a ding. No?
Sandra raised me.
Oh, Sandra, do you have a question?
No, I was just going to say that I know a lot of things that we've run into is underground gas lines.
Yes.
Because a lot of people think of like they want a fire pit over here, and then some of them too are doing generators. And we ran into a problem where we got our lines here and someone else is trying to put their lines there. So that's just one thing I just wanted to add to your discussion. That is a very important thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
and when they put in the outdoor showers, that's the other thing too, because there's underground water lines. Those are the only two things I wanted to just bring up. That's it.
No, thank you for bringing those up. Those are excellent examples. And so in our world, like, those are absolute priorities, right? So partnering with plumbing, right, and understanding, okay, where are gas lines, where are water lines, and making sure that we as integrators really need to design around that and communicate with your trade to make sure that we're not laying anything down before your items are laid down in priority if there's any conflict. And also, gas and, water, they have you've got different regulations, right? And permits and things like that low voltage does not have. So your trade is always a priority, as it should. You should have the space you need to be able to get gas where it needs to go and water to where it needs to go. So really very important for technology integrators to partner and make sure they understand the plan and the timing, so that when the audio and all the fun stuff goes in, although
Right.
I would argue that an outdoor shower is very fun, as well as an outdoor fire pit. And actually this is a great example where we would partner on the outdoor power fire pit to make sure that we put a relay in or some other part, so that, we don't need to sell or install the thing that we're controlling. What we need to understand is, like, what is it, what brand it is, and then where the power is, so that on a phone or something else, we can be able to pull it into a scene. So those are great examples. Thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Environmental considerations, so things to think about, especially if we have people on the coast. There are products very specific that assist with really salt and weather. Fortunately, there's a lot of brands, like I would say high quality brands, that have fully tested outdoor audio, outdoor televisions, outdoor lighting, outdoor cameras in this sort of environment. So I would just say that if you are working on projects or you have a home on the coast, there are definitely special considerations about the product choices you have in terms of what manufacturers you use, to make sure you put something in there that is going to have staying power and a good warranty on it, and be able to last a really long time. There are also, in some cases, there are ways to actually make applications on products. So for example, there's companies that will take a product and put a special film around it that extends the length of time. Most products don't need that now because they really are engineered to be in this sort of situation, but you'll want to definitely consider it. You know, one thing we haven't talked about is outdoor shades, which is a really fast growing category in the technology world. And so if you can think about, for example, outdoor, let's look at an outdoor, maybe like a patio area, for example, in this picture. Let's just pretend that this house here that's in the forefront has an area that is outside, but also covered that they use for outdoor entertaining. You might want to, because of the sun or because of weather conditions, you might want to be able to snap your fingers and have essentially an all enclosure, have shades come down. I would actually say weather, sun protection, but also bugs. If you're in a part of the country where you have mosquitoes or other bugs that bother you, there's fantastic outdoor shading solutions that essentially can allow people to enjoy their outdoors more. And those, very similar to the other technologies we talked about, they can be controlled in one app. They can be executed through voice control. They are even smart enough, some of them, where the control system can identify certain weather predictions, like you're going to get a storm that's going to run through, right? And maybe there's going to be some high wind and you're concerned about your patio furniture. The systems are smart enough and the outdoor shading solutions are strong enough so that it can predict that within a scene and actually put them down for you if you want. Let's say you're not home and now your patio furniture is all protected because of your smart home, and your outdoor shades were designed well and are now taking care of your house. So that is and really a category that is growing very, very fast. And the products that are out there are really fantastic, which is great. A little bit about terrain. So, you know, if you have yards that are really sloped or have some unusual aspects to them, maybe there's a lot of granite or other items that need to be worked around. That is definitely part of the planning process, is really understanding what is the terrain, how are we going to work with the terrain, are there any special considerations with the terrain, so that we can make sure that if there are entertainment pieces or technology pieces being added, they actually operate as designed. So that's something that we look at as well. We talked a little bit about product considerations for the outdoor area. As I mentioned earlier, all outdoor products really are engineered to be outdoors. And that's a good thing, because you know, if you don't have outdoor rated products, you do open yourself up to, you know, certainly the product not working very much. So in the television example of somebody needing to go get a new TV every 3 years, right? But it's more important than that, because when you have electronics, and even when they're not high voltage electronics, if you're exposing them in environments where their warranty is not covered, you really kind of open yourself up to fire and other things. So you want to make sure that you really are utilizing products that are meant to be outdoors. And the integration community, which is the companies like I have, we're trained on that and very familiar with what a quality outdoor product is and what the warranties are for you. Infrastructure. So what is the infrastructure that we plan out? When you looked at the architectural diagram earlier on, it's speaker wire. There's different gauges of speaker wire. Depending upon the audio experience and the products you have out there, you might utilize something different. An integrator is skilled at understanding what type of infrastructure needs to be part of that plan. You might also have you know, a property that maybe it's 3-4 acres and they want to be able to shoot Wi-Fi out to a pergola that is far away, or maybe they want to hardwire to that running fiber to that location because Cat6 and networking cable won't, you know, do an adequate job for the distance. So the big ones really are networking cable like Cat6 or fiber. Also, certainly speaker wire, speaker cable, power where you need it. So high voltage where you need it, working with the electrician to understand where that's needed. Conduit, if you need wiring to run into conduit pieces for future proofing or being able to get data and communications to different pieces. And then there's the specialty items. So like the fire pits, like the fountains. So understanding what is powering those, what are those power requirements? And then on the integration side, we figure out, okay, what part are we going to put in place at those different locations so that we can make the magic happen and make sure we're able to control them. So those are the big infrastructure pieces for outdoor audio design and making sure that we're setting ourselves up for success. Controlling the system, we've talked a lot about. What we don't want typically, unless the client wants it, is a bunch of apps, which is where a lot of people have kind of like maybe homegrown their system to if they have an existing system. Really, when we look at experience design, our goal is to get clients really to a one app system. And even for people that they might not want to use an app, they might not want to use a phone at all. Well, there's definitely ways to be able to do that. This, for example, is a touch screen. It's an example of one. There's many on the market with different interfaces. But being able to step outside and press a scene or be able to cue up some music right from a touch screen is a great example. We talked about lighting controls earlier and how lighting controls really do more than just lighting now. They also cue up scenes, and they're able to cue up fire pits and fountains and sound and televisions all at one press of a button. So being able to use keypads and experience design to be able to get that is really great. Voice control has been really popular. You can absolutely control these systems through voice control as well. There are even private voice control systems now for people who are concerned about privacy. So technology really has come a long way. So we really look at it as a multimodal design and understanding the client and what sort of experience and how is it going to be easiest. And typically 5 apps is not easy. So we design around really one control system. And we're really looking to just bring it all together. At the end of the day, it's great to have technology. It's great to have great speakers and great lighting and all those things. But that really is the end point of what should be an experience design around how are you going to enjoy it. And you're going to enjoy it really through proper thought around the design, making sure we have the infrastructure ready, installing it, making sure customers know how to control it, and providing a really sophisticated experience that is easy to access for everybody in the house. And it really is across all those multiple systems. This is a video. This is an example of a video. So some of what you're seeing here, you're seeing living spaces that are both indoors and outdoors. And that's part of the plan too. Really figuring out how do you take the indoor experience and extend it outdoors in a way that's fluid and works with the house. And this is like, I think, a really good example of a home design that has done that, and lighting and audio and technology that gets you there. I'm moving in. I love this part of the space. So there's greenery here, right? And this is an outdoor kitchen. But it also looks like we've got actually the outdoor kitchen's over here. We've got automated doors, glass doors, which we also can control. So this space can be both indoor and outdoor, depending upon the experience that the client wants. So that I think is a really, really great picture. So that's our content. I just wanted to invite all of you to check out CEDIA. It is both for, by the way, it stands for Custom Electronics Design and Installation Association. So we are the technology trade. It's an emerging trade, been around for 20 years, but it's very much coming to the forefront. now that it's much more popular to have technology in your home. And CEDIA can both be integration members, but also designers, builders, architects. We have programs that work and services that work well there. And this is one of them. The CEU course is really from CEDIA and the IDCEC, figuring out how can we partner together and make sure that we're providing experiences where people can learn about these things, and also just relationship connections to have people to network with when you do need help, or if you'd like to work with somebody. So just a summary of discussion, we listed technology options for outdoor spaces. Pretty much if it has power, the idea is that we probably can control it. And, I hope you're now more familiar with outdoor project site evaluations and what we look for, how we plan, how we look at spaces, how we keep it customer centric. We talked a bit about environmental conditions and reviewed infrastructure and equipment needs, and talked a lot about control and really what the applications are for people when they're outdoors. And a lot of that really is client specific. Everybody's different, right? But being able to understand what are the end goals of that space, providing visibility to what's possible, because most people don't know what's possible. And that's part of what integrators provide too, is wowing people. Well, did you know you could do X, Y, and Z and be able to accomplish this? So there's a lot of potential here. This category is really growing very, very fast over the last couple of years. And I hope this was a good primer for you in terms of creating outdoor experiences. If you have questions, feel free to follow up with me. And also Monica on our team here, if you're a designer, an architect, or a builder, she'll reach out to you to get your association number so that when we submit for your credits, you're able to earn your credits. And our next ones are integrated lighting control, hidden technology in the home. We're going to talk about hidden technology in the home as well. And then we're also going to talk about smart power in a couple months as well. So if you'd like to join us in the future, definitely